healthcare is the foundation and an inseparable pillar of development. And nutrition also plays a very, very important part in the wellness of society. The most important thing in this is for the community to take ownership in what is going to be beneficial for them.
Right. Today we have with us Ms. Shefalika Panda, Trustee and CEO of Bansidhar and Ela Panda Foundation. Ms. Shefalika works with her team to design and implement programs to deliver critical services to the most vulnerable sections of society. She developed the framework for Project Unnati, an integrated self-help approach covering finance, livelihood, health, nutrition, sanitation, and hygiene. The project, which is now implemented in several districts of Orissa, got recognized as a best case practice by New York based Global Health Consortium and United Nations Foundation. Ms. Shefalika has also held several leadership positions. She was co-chairperson of FICCI Young Leaders from 2014 to 16 and served on the advisory board of FICCI Social Economic Development Foundation and the Learning Matters Teachers Training Institute. Ms. Panda, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, ma'am, we would just like to kind of understand a little bit about your professional journey and how the foundation really came into existence.
Right. So, IMFA as a corporate has always been very, very sensitive about carrying their communities with them, and so that journey was there from the 1960s all the way to the early 2000s. But a lot has evolved in the development space, and I think all of us needed to adapt to that to be able to bring about a larger impact. Keeping that in mind, we decided that it was important for us to um, adapt ourselves to be able to make collaborations and go into strategic interventions to deal with social issues, and that's how the foundation came about in 2011.
Right. So, ma'am, tell us a little bit about the vision behind the foundation and why specifically you chose the area of improved healthcare and nutrition as one of your focus areas.
Right. So, the whole idea about the Bansidhar and Ela Panda Foundation's interventions is that there must be a sustainable long-term impact.
Right.
And I also believe that the healthcare is the foundation and an inseparable pillar of development. And nutrition also plays a very, very important part in the wellness of society. As such, we focus on preventive health and women's empowerment programs because I believe that that is what will bring about sustainable change.
Right. So, can you, ma'am, walk us through a little bit about the different programs that you have under the larger umbrella of healthcare and nutrition?
Right. So, under the healthcare programs, we focus a lot on maternal and child health. And I also, as you mentioned in your introduction, we have the Unnati program, which is very, close to my heart, simply because I believe that it's very, very important to have financial and social inclusion integrated.
Right.
And the important aspect today is that we cannot look at any intervention in isolation. Must be integrated because you can't talk about good health without sanitation and hygiene, and you cannot talk about say sanitation, hygiene, or taking care of the food needs that you have without being able to afford that, which is where livelihoods come in. So,
Right.
which was part of the integrated SHG program. Specifically in terms of health, we have clinics in the tribal areas which cater to maybe 200 surrounding villages. We have health camps in inaccessible areas. We provide a very specific focus on child immunization and anemic awareness interventions at the ground level. So that is how we decide to cover the spectrum and reach out to people in the realm of preventive health.
Right. You mentioned you deal with a lot of maternal and child health. So you want to understand, as somebody who runs a big, program that is focused on these two aspects, what are some important areas when we design, let's say, nutrition interventions that are focused on maternal and child health? So what are some important areas we should focus on in designing these interventions?
So, you can't talk about nutrition without maternal and child health and vice versa, right? And I think we also know that the key is to catch and make the intervention at an early stage, which means at the stage of the adolescent girl. Because when you change the life of an adolescent girl to be more healthy, is when you will bring about the intergenerational change, be it on health or nutrition. And you break that cycle, which is going on the vicious cycle there. So it's very, very important that we educate the adolescents about the importance of nutrition, the importance of nutri-rich foods, to make sure that they are not anemic, because 50% of the women in our country are anemic.
Yeah.
And this is not just a rural issue. This is equal even for the urban landscape that we have. And so once you take that intervention to them at an early stage, and then of course you talk to them about the perils of early marriage or early pregnancy, and give them that knowledge so that they are able to take control of their lives and make the correct decisions that are essential for them. Also, when women are empowered with things that are, with knowledge that is good for their future, they would put that into practice when they get that opportunity. Having said that, once we have passed that stage, then of course it is very important, once they get married, once they conceive, the ANCs, the PNCs, the immunization calendars, how they have to be maintained, the importance of the early and the exclusive breastfeeding till 6 months, and thereafter the supplementary feeding post 6 months. All that education and awareness is very, very important for these people to change the health parameters of the children.
Right. You're absolutely right, ma'am. And in that case, it has a more sustainable and durable impact as well. And talking about the idea of having a sustainable impact and also focusing on awareness, social behavior change communication is now becoming a very important medium through which people are hoping that communities become sustainable in themselves when they look at improved nutrition. So how is the foundation kind of capitalizing on this idea of behavior change communication, and why is it in your opinion becoming so increasingly important?
So I think health seeking behavior is the best way to achieve a positive health outcome. And in order to get everyone to, follow the health seeking behavior change communication is key. Now, behavior change communication, according to me, should be put into awareness programs, which again are not looking at anything in isolation. We must uh, an integrated module for this, and teach them behavior change communication, be it with regard to health, with regard to nutrition, with regard to sanitation, and put it together as a package. The other thing is that this has to be a continuous effort. It cannot be, you cannot say for 3 months in the year I'm going to focus on X, and then 3 months in the year I'll focus on another intervention. So this has to be a continuous process. And that is something that we do with our SHG groups, where we have a very systematic and strategic 151 meetings based simply on life skills.
Right.
The important part is to make sure that this is sustainable. We also invest in, community volunteers, where the community volunteers eventually take over this behavior change communication initiative in the long run. And that is how we will be able to scale up this program to reach out to more.
Right. And I think that is something, that what we aim for, that we make the community so self-sufficient that we can then go and tackle the next challenge or the next community that presents itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Add one more point to it. The most important thing in this is for the community to take ownership in what is going to be beneficial for them.
Right.
And they only do that when they understand this well enough. And therefore, the framework of making this, awareness and this education to them over a period of time, rather than just keeping a few short meetings and just explaining it to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, talking about the COVID-19 crisis, which has really kind of hit us a bit out of the blue and left us quite unprepared, to grapple with it. In the communities that you work with, what are some changes in behaviors, attitudes, and practices that you have seen after a, post-COVID scenario that we are in right now?
So clearly, the post-COVID scenario is a challenge across the board, right? And everyone has been focusing on interventions to tackle COVID, or rather deal with the outcomes that COVID has left us with or is currently prevalent. Um, but what that has also done is that has taken a made us take a backseat with many other important issues like nutrition. So it's time for us to focus and get back in action for all those issues, because those are equally important when it comes to maintaining good health. And immunity is key today.
Right.
Even more so in the post-COVID scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear there's lots of employment, and the lack of resources has resulted in food insecurity, which is very, very visible in terms of, the lower meal frequencies, the reduction in portion sizes, and the less, intake of nutritious foods. And therefore, we have tried to reach out to people more on a door-to-door basis because of social distancing that is now required.
Right.
And take this message to them along with the awareness on COVID, to take the issue to them about how it is extremely important at this moment to have a nutritional diet to maintain their health.
Right.
And the most important thing in this is, how to be self-sufficient and put up nutri gardens, and, which is what is going to give them accessibility to food.
Absolutely.
Nutritious food specifically. The change I see in people today is, I believe that because now everybody is very homebound and they understand the need to be homebound, they are actually taking more ownership of this than they were before. When you have an option that should I go to my backyard and plant nutritious food, or can I buy it, we all tend to get a bit lazy about it. So, when you have no other choice is when the participation level is much higher. And that is the difference that we are seeing in the communities today.
Right. You're absolutely right, ma'am. I think we're seeing a lot of, vocal for local, we like to call it, being vocal for grains and pulses that are locally grown in the area and capitalizing on them as sources of nutrition. So now I do want to ask you, when, the COVID pandemic hit, obviously a lot of the interventions they were an immediate response effort, relief, where people are distributing food packets and ration kits. But now, seeing as this is something that we are going to live with for quite some time, what is your advice on making these interventions sustainable over time?
Look, as I said, these interventions have to be continuous, and they cannot be in isolation. I think there is huge power in collaboration. We must not look at addressing an issue or creating a new framework when there are already some very good frameworks. So, going back to, we're at a Poshan talk, so going back to the importance of the Poshan Abhiyan, we should be partners in this. We should expand on that framework and contribute to that framework. I'd like to also take this opportunity to talk about the I4N, where I think it is such a brilliant initiative where you are using that, what they've called the ACE card, and not just focusing on core assets or CSR, but making sure we focus on the workforce, right? And the employee involvement or awareness rather is so very important here, that it's not about just explaining something or feeding something at the workplace, in the canteen, or the snacks that are there in offices. It's about making a lifestyle change. The core lifestyle has to change. It's also brought awareness on the fact that being literate doesn't mean that you know enough about the importance of nutrition. Right? So nutrition literacy is something completely different. This has to be not just addressed in communities around us, but inside our homes, inside our workplaces. Right. And which is why I think it's a very, very timely initiative. and it has picked up on a great area which we were not focusing on.
Right.
And that is going to go a long way in sort of, encompassing this issue, and bring about the larger impact.
Now I'm just looking forward into the future. We've talked about the interventions and all the work that is already done. But as a leader of a foundation, what is the next area of focus within health and nutrition that you believe should be a priority area and requires all our attention?
I still believe there's a lot of work in maternal and child health that needs to be done. And it needs to be done, by breaking up the segment into micro uh, segments.
Right.
Because we talk about health, we talk about maternal. I mean, we know it includes maternal child health. If we talk about maternal and child health, we know it's automatically includes nutrition. But I don't think it's as simple. Until and unless we break it up, and until and unless we make a very conscious effort to address each of these segments under this umbrella.
Right.
So, I still think we should not lose focus of that, and not try to dilute the impact that is there in this position, but in fact try to go deeper and be more strategic with our interventions to create the outcomes we were looking for.
Right, and these two stakeholder groups are the most vulnerable when it comes to health and nutrition, and especially seeing how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted them. In a lot of my reading, I've come across how women have gone down from 5 food groups to just 2 food groups, which comprises of just dal and rice. So something like that is really worrisome, which then has a direct impact on the child, either in a prenatal environment or postnatal. So you're absolutely right, ma'am. I think maternal and child health should definitely be at the top of our priorities.
Like you just pointed out, it needs a very, very sort of micro focus on gender equity.
Right.
Because when you say the women's food group has gone down from 5 to 2, it's a gender thing. If we compare that to the men, that's not necessarily going to be true.
Right.
We know about the nutrition that is provided to the girl child as versus to the boy child, right? That is where that makes a big difference. So these are all the issues that have to be dealt with, and focused on if we are to achieve the targets of the Poshan Abhiyan.
Right. And I think that is what is so wonderful about your program, because it's so holistic. It doesn't just focus on the aspect of health and nutrition, but livelihood and financial security also become important parts of that ecosystem, because that is really something which is going to have a more durable impact, especially for women.
Yes, because you see, when women start earning is when they find a voice.
Right.
And until and unless they have that voice, they are not going to be able to exercise what they want to use their funding, their finances for.
Right.
That's when they can say, I want to use it for my food group, or I want to use it for, be it in education, because that is another, a very important aspect that comes to changing their futures.
Right. Absolutely right, ma'am. This brings us to the end of our interview, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here today. It was great to hear from your experiences and on the wonderful work that you're doing. And I think just amazing to see how holistic your ideas and your programs at the foundation are. And we definitely look forward to a long and fruitful partnership with the foundation, and wish you all the best for your nutrition efforts.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to collaborating in every way we can.
Thank you, ma'am.